Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the Dinner Club. Got that funk here back once again, and with a long since seen on screen associate, the wonderful Peach. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am getting there. This is the best way I can put it. Right, I'm so pleased that you agreed to be interviewed because, as hopefully most viewers ought to know, anyways, you've been on both versions of the channel and one of the primary instigators of the project and the philosophy behind it, I think. And your contributions when you were on my version of the channel were always particularly great. So thanks. You know,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you for having me.
yeah, naturally, of course. Anyway, right. So now that the pleasantries are out of the way, I'm going to ask you a few of the stock questions that I've asked everybody. And, like I said before, feel free to expound as much as you want, elaborate, go down rabbit holes. It's all good. But so where were you born? In what state?
New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey. All right. Were you raised there as well?
Yes. Born and raised.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. And so I guess that means you didn't move around much as a kid. So who was president when you were born? I don't want the specific year.
Ronald Reagan.
Reagan. Okay. Wow. And when you were going to school, did you like it?
The first few years, yes. But when I hit fifth grade, that's when the bullying started. And it kind of lasted all through what we would call middle school. And
Hmm.
then it calmed down for high school, but I just kind of disappeared. I didn't really I didn't get noticed much. I had one friend who by coincidence is Raven's cousin. I
Wow.
didn't I didn't know Raven at the time, but I was best friends with her cousin all throughout high school, but she was really the only friend I had. And so I mean, school wasn't that bad in high school, but I don't remember enjoying it much. I did well, but I didn't really want to be there.
Yeah, I can dig it. I mean, the social aspect of school was really hard for me, so I can appreciate. I mean, I only had one real friend all the way through school, so I can relate to that personally. So when you were younger, what was the nature of the bullying? Because fifth grade, I guess that's around 10 years old.
This right here.
What, your hair?
Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of hard for me to comprehend. you know,
Well, it's just
how it's started
I
and people sort of think they can get away with bullying you. Is that how it works? I don't
well,
really
yeah,
know.
of course, of course. I was quiet. I was a very good student. I was kind of a coward. So I mean, yeah, people had no problem picking on me.
Mhm.
But it was that my hair was the catalyst because I didn't know how to take care of it. I didn't know how to style it. It was this unruly mess of curls, and I didn't know what to do. And there was this is going to sound like a whine, but there was no one in popular media that looked like me for me to model myself off of. And I didn't really even know any other mixed people until my sisters were born. And for the longest time, they were the only ones. And they being little babies, they obviously um, were of no help to me as far as finding a way to figure this out. So
Right.
I ended up so when I was old enough, I ended up re- uh, straightening my hair, relaxing my hair for many years, and I'm ever since like I hit adulthood, it's something I still struggle with, like trying to get those old hang-ups out of my head. But that's what bullying can do. It can just stay with you even long past
Yeah, that's the
out.
nature of trauma, I suppose. You know, when you were going through school, Peach, did you have a favorite teacher?
Yes, I did. 5th grade was my favorite teacher was my 5th grade teacher, Miss Susan Subsakoff. I even, friended her on Facebook a couple years back. I don't think she's on Facebook anymore, but she, yeah, she was great. She, like, loved me. So, yeah, we got along great, and, I always remembered her. Nobody else came close.
was it her personality or her teaching style, or the fact that she, like, noticed you and respected you as an individual, that type of thing? I mean,
I think it was a combination of all those factors. She did make me feel special, especially when, like I said, that was the year the bullying started. So I felt um, my self-esteem was starting to plummet, and she did, do what she could to kind of lift me up, reminding me, hey, you are a gifted student and you're a nice person, and hey, let's do something fun.
right. Well, that's pretty cool. Now, my recollection is that you have a younger sister, isn't that right?
I have two younger sisters, half
Two younger
sisters.
sisters. Okay, right. And how much younger are they than you?
So the first one is 6 years younger than me, and then the next one is 8 years younger than me.
Okay, right. And were you all raised together?
No,
Okay,
no. Like I said, they are my half siblings, and it, when my first sister was born, that was kind of what triggered my parents' breakup, because my mom tried to pass her off as my dad's, and that didn't work when she came out looking exactly like the janitor.
right.
So,
That's
when
the
they split up, I went with my mother for, like, the first year, and then, uh or no, the first 2 years rather, and then their divorce was finalized, and my father won custody of me. And when my mother was given visitation rights, which were revoked pretty quickly, so I didn't get to see my sisters, and then later on my brother very often at all.
So
It was
how old were you when your dad got custody?
8.
Okay, right. And I guess that level of estrangement, did that last all the way through, like, school and stuff?
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
Like I said, my mother's visitation rights were taken away because she decided to take me with her to buy drugs one day, and the court said, "No, that's not a
I'm
good
sorry that
idea."
I laughed, but it was a surprise laugh more than anything.
Well, yeah, I think we can all laugh about it now, 30 years later,
Right.
um, 25 years later, whatever. And, so, yeah, she was never allowed to, uh, take me anywhere. She was never allowed to come get me. So the only workaround was my grandparents. So, like, 2 weeks out of every summer, I would go stay with them, and then my little sisters would join me, and that would basically be it
Mm,
until I was about 13.
right. And what changed at 13?
Um, my dad is a very salty person, and he, uh, he just kinda convinced me that nobody on my mother's side really cared all that much, and that wasn't fair, because it was just her, really. Nobody else had any, negative feelings about me, and I kinda cut off contact for a long time, and I actually regret that.
I'm sure. Yeah, yeah, sure. I mean, I see. It's easy to criticize something like that from the outside, as like, from I go, well, as a parent, how could anybody? But I mean, every parent makes mistakes. I've made mistakes
Mhm.
as a parent. I'm sure other people make mistakes. You know what I mean? And I don't think there's any such thing as a perfect parent or a perfect child or anything like that. But that does not excuse blatantly bad behavior. And I've got lots of issues with my folks, but I let it all go a long time ago. And maybe that wasn't the wisest thing to do on one level, but I'll tell you what, it freed me in so many ways. Um,
No, I understand.
yeah, yeah, it really did. Anyway, right, I'm going to get back to my stock questions here, my dear.
Okay.
How old were you the first time that you definitely knew you were in love?
How old was I?
Yeah.
Um, 23.
Okay. So well after school and
Yeah.
everything, like, I suppose after college. Were you in the service yet at
Yeah,
23?
I was in the service at the time, yes.
Okay, wow. So was it a fellow service member?
No, no, when I was in the service, I was stationed in Oklahoma,
Mm.
and as you might imagine, there's not a whole lot to do out there, but Tulsa has a very vibrant local music scene, and I did end up making a circle of friends that I would hang out with occasionally. Oklahoma City, which is where I was stationed, and Tulsa's like an hour and a half away. So I didn't go that often, but it was pretty often, and I really fell for one of the band members that we used to go and see. It sounds so lame now.
Why do you think that sounds lame? Is it
Yeah,
cliche? Is
this
cliche?
boy in a band, I sound like such a groupie.
Well, I mean, I have to admit, I've never been a groupie as such, but a chick is definitely sexier if she can sing, and if she can sing and play a guitar, that slays. You know what I
I
mean? It
think
just does.
I think that kinda had something to do with it.
Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, and did you actually have a relationship with this person, or was it love unrequited?
Unrequited, more like unexplored. I do think he had a crush on me, but I was so scared. Huge rejection fears that I never approached him, and he didn't approach me either. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I understand the fear of rejection. I used to suffer from that for a long time. And then when I was in high school, I got a job at this roller disco. And see, none of the girls at school would talk to me because I was really scrawny and had fucked up teeth. But at the
oh,
roller disco, all the girls thought I was cute. And I realized that I could ask girls out if I wanted to, and they might say yes. And
but
so I
he
just
didn't.
went back to school and asked loads of chicks out, but they all said no because they knew me since fucking 8 years old. So
That's
anyway,
terrible.
it's kind of, I just think it's kind of funny. Okay, so here we get into some of the questions, which are a little bit lighthearted, but also serious. I mean, and you can take these in whichever direction you think is most appropriate and fitting or entertaining. All right. So, what's the worst thing you've done for money?
The worst thing I've done for money?
Yeah.
Um, Probably work jobs that I hate. Um,
What's the
I did
worst?
wor I did work for a cable company once. That was terrible.
Why was that
They're
terrible?
they're evil, and it was like,
Are they? What do they do that's evil?
well, they rip people off,
Oh,
and they don't provide a very good textbook. Well, at least at the time. Maybe they've improved because they have real competition now with streaming services, but this was many years ago,
mm,
right out of the service, and
right.
it was the most boring job. I hated the hours. I was very spoiled by the military, and I did not stay there long. And I think the worst things I ever did for money was just being at jobs that I did not like, that made me unhappy.
Yeah, well, that's a fair enough answer. So, if memory serves me right, you were in the Air Force and the Army.
Yeah, I was in the Air Force, active duty for 6 years, and then I separated and enlisted in the Army National Guard for a year and a half. Didn't like the Army National Guard.
Okay, does that explain the year and a half duration?
Yeah, well, they kinda had me on a modified, enlistment term, mainly because, they were hurting for people at the time and because I was prior service.
Right. Okay. And uh, were you ever stationed abroad when you were in the service?
No, unfortunately, the furthest I ever got was Oklahoma.
Right. Okay. And so what kind of therefore if you weren't off doing all that stuff, what I'm not even that well aware of what happens on the domestic scene when it comes to, keeping everything running. What do you do during the day? Say when you're in the Air Force on it.
It's just a job, really. I mean, day to day, you just go to work and you you do what you're assigned to do. Now, when I was in the service, I was trained to be a desktop support tech, which is what I still do.
Hmm.
And I was assigned to my squadron's help desk. So whoever, within obviously the squadron needed help with their computers, they took it to me.
Oh,
And yeah. And nothing has changed much since.
right. I mean, so you just said that's what you're doing at the moment. Would you say that you enjoy what you do?
Yeah, I do. I mean, mainly because I like the company that I work for, and I really like our my team. We get along really well, and I like working autonomously, which they allow. And I get a lot of, positive feedback. That always helps. But
Sure.
there have definitely been other places that I've been, particularly when I was a contractor, where I very much did not like what I was doing, even though I know how to do the job. It's not my dream job, but it really all depends on the environment and the people I work with. That really determines whether or not I like what I'm doing.
Hmm. Well, that's pretty. Yeah, I think that's great. I've been privileged enough to like almost all the jobs I've ever had. Um, so and I recognize that as a privilege, right? Because and when I got into radio, I just kind of fell into it, you know, which
Well,
is
that does sound like a fun
super
job.
privileged. Oh, honestly, for someone with my personality, Peach, there's not a better job in the world. I mean, they listen to this. They pay you to talk and play music. What could possibly be better than that, right?
I
And
can't think of a whole lot of things that are better than that.
very many. And the other thing is, of course, I mean, the days have changed a bit because of the internet now. But I mean, once upon a time, you didn't know what these fuckers on the internet, on the radio looked like, and you could be whatever in your real life and put on a complete persona and have so much fun with it. And that's why I love radio.
It's true. It's true. Now you made me remember my teen years and being obsessed with the local DJs, because I used to listen to the radio all the time and imagining what they look like. And then a couple years later, when we did get the internet, and I looked up what they look like, and I thought, wow, now I understand why they're in radio. But they were so much fun.
It's so true, though. Yeah, it's so true. So, what stations did you listen to out there in Jersey when you were growing up? And how old were you when you first got into radio?
I was probably about 12.
Right.
12, yeah. Because I kind of raised myself on classic R&B. There was so many periods in my, you know, teen years, tween years, where I got really sick of the current top 40 rotation, and I started kind of exploring, and I really got into a lot of the R&B stuff. So, I don't know if the stations are the same, but the one that I always sorry, a cat just ran outside. Um, the one I always used to, really get into was, let's see, it was 98.7 KISS FM. That was the classic R&B station,
Cool.
and then sometimes I would listen to the hip hop station, and that was Hot 97, where, Wendy Williams got her start. I remember hearing her on the radio too.
That's
But the
pretty
top
cool.
the top 40 station was Z100, and I think it still is.
Wow. Yeah, that's neat. When I was growing up, I listened to KFRC out of San Francisco, which was like one of the biggest stations in the country. And at the time, except for the morning guy, almost all the DJs sounded pretty close to identically alike. So the only thing different about the way they sounded was their personalities and the way they presented. And I found that fascinating because you could tell they were different, but their voice, their pitch, their tone, they clearly interviewed and saw DJs with a particular thing.
I've
And
noticed that a lot of the old DJs, they all had like the same voice.
well, yeah, there was a radio voice, and I very much grew up with that in my head when I started on radio. No, I think it's pretty cool. And so I know this about you because we've been acquainted for some time, but some of the audience may not know that you derived the name that you use on the internet, Peach, from a song by Prince, which came out on the Hits and B-Sides album back in 92 or 3, whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love that because it's one of Prince's rock ditties, right? It's a really cool little rock number. And but I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I automatically respect people more if they're into Prince.
Yeah, me too, because he was a genius, even though he was kind of a jerk.
Well, I can't speak to the jerk part, but like, he's a genius for sure. And
Well, I remember some accounts of him suing his own fans for selling
I remember
bootlegs.
that.
Mm.
For
Like, oh,
someone had their 3-year-old or whatever on a YouTube video, and this is before YouTube was corporate like it is now. And someone had a 3-year-old dancing to, I think it was When Doves Cry, but it might have been 1999. I don't remember which one. And he sued him.
yeah,
And I'm like, dude, whoa, come on,
that's
and
what I'm talking about. He was kind of a jerk in that aspect. I mean, he had more money than anybody he could possibly sue, and he still sued them.
It's just a
I
weird thing to do. Yeah.
I remember, like, the day after he passed away, I don't know who, but someone, I think in his, um, maybe somebody who worked for him, started uploading Prince videos one by one. Like, you couldn't find any of them
That's
on
right.
YouTube. And then, like, the day after he died, somebody started uploading them because I guess nobody was gonna stop him this time.
Well,
And I just remember
plus, like
I just
there was
remember
this
thinking that's so
tribute,
ironic.
there was a high tribute mentality going on. It's like, hey, we got to appreciate all this, and I think there was just so many that the algorithms probably couldn't handle it either.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of funny in a morbid way that they waited exactly until he died to start uploading his music onto YouTube.
I think it's funny. But so I was abroad, obviously, and you were domestic, like, during the time when Prince changed his name to a symbol. I mean, what did you think about that?
I thought it was kind of silly. I was a kid, so I didn't really understand why he did it. I mean, I understand now um he was feeling kind of weighed down by his record company. He didn't like them having any amount of control over his music or his image, and so he just said, "All right, you own the name Prince. You own me. I'm gonna turn my name into something that you can't pronounce, and
Hmm.
that's not technically a word." And yeah, of course, I, like the rest of the world, thought it was a stunt, a gimmick, and just another example of him being weird. But you know, I wasn't old enough to really understand the context.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I just thought it was amusing as hell because on the one level, it's pretentious as fuck. I mean, it just is, right?
It is.
But on the other level, like you said, there was actual logical rationale behind it, and it kind of worked because it made them negotiate where he was getting nowhere for years, and
Yeah.
they had the upper hand and they knew it. And so yeah, I find it I just find it interesting what people think about it, right? Because it is weird. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It's not
Very
normal.
weird.
It's like changing your name to and then like an emoji, you know.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
happy face, you know. Yeah. Anyway, we're on still in the job section. What's the best job you've ever had? Is that the one you're at now, that you reckon, or have you had something else that you wistfully, reminisce about?
I guess the one I have now, I like the most, mainly because they pay me better than any other position I've had, so that's always a plus. Um, it's a startup company. They kind of divested away from a major corporation, so it does have this kind of a little bit of a chaotic feel, but kind of fun at the same time.
Mm.
And like I said before, I'm part of a really great team. We get along very well. Um, I'm They show their appreciation for my performance, and vice versa. So I'm happy with them. And I have to say that since the pandemic, I've had to transition to working from home most of the time. I still go into the office twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. So I went in today, and um, I love my children, but it's always a kind of a treat for me to go to work these days just to get
Yeah, I understand.
a breather.
I understand. Yeah, I was a single parent for many years, and having any other adults to talk to is just really nice,
Yeah,
you know. So yeah, I can appreciate that. So you and I first became acquainted back when the atheist community was in its ascendancy, right?
yeah.
And
Over 13 years ago.
yeah, now it's kind of shocking to consider. I mean, yeah, in fact, just like a month ago, I had my anniversary for my first video. Um, but I don't even register that anymore. I mean, once upon a time, it was a big deal to me. It's like, yeah, another year down on YouTube. But I mean, I haven't made a video on my own channel for over a year and a half. You know what I mean? Anyway,
A lot longer than that for me.
I was just about to ask you that question. How long has it been since you've done it? Is your channel still up?
It's
'Cause-
up. It's up, but it's obviously dormant. The last video I uploaded, um, was probably about 8 or 9 months or so after I had Damon. So we're talking about 4 years ago, I
Right.
think.
Well, pardon me for remembering this so well, but I recall a video that you did where you had your hair all straightened and you just went on to Patreon, and I thought, oh wow, cool, Peach is going to make a big comeback, and then you dropped off again, and it was like, what happened?
I the same thing that always happened. I never have much to talk about. I've always been um really I've always had a really hard time coming up with content to keep people interested and keep myself interested.
Hmm.
When it was the atheist community, there were certain topics that I could jump on board and feel like I'm contributing, but how many times and how many ways can you say gods aren't real? I mean, it gets old after a time, and it's like, okay, who am I talking to now?
Right. Well, I totally dig that. I think everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people went through that same sort of process. And then, of course, there was a couple of non-atheist related topics which swept through the community. And I thought it just divided it forever to the point where it fractured and people got really nasty with each other. And I just think whatever illusions people were under were popped, and yeah.
Absolutely. When the feminism topic rolled around, it was just never the same after that, and it stopped being fun.
Well, that's right. And the the irony is that I used to love it. I was when I looked forward to getting home from work so I could make a video. And as you know, I made plenty of videos at work as well. It was like the axis around which my creative impulses rotated. And I kind of miss that about YouTube on the one hand, but like on the other hand, I miss that about me. I don't feel as creative about videos anymore as I used to for lots of reasons. I mean, the internet is so much more toxic, and it was more toxic in 2009 when I started than it was, say, in 2004. The internet seems to be more and more poisonous, and that not all of that is down to real people. Some of it's down to fucking bots and shit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But yeah.
And another thing that kind of sucked the fun out of YouTube for me was YouTube itself. It changed. It started to cater itself more to celebrities and people who uh, create a lot, much of which is just fluff, and it for whatever reason it sells, and people became more um, caught up in ad revenue and sponsorship, and the algorithms basically just kind of sealed the nail in the coffin for me. It's like, well, even if I wanted to come back, I can't compete with the structure anymore. I can't.
Well, I feel the same way. It's like trying to swim up a waterfall. You know what I mean? I mean, it really is rigged against you. Um, what were your favorite atheist channels to watch back in the day?
Let's see. I did enjoy the Thinking Atheist, Dark Matter 2525. Obviously, Oh My God, It's Chris.
Hmm.
She was always fun. Um, Let me see. I like specifically atheist channels. And somebody I've been missing a lot lately, and I was just thinking about this yesterday. Edible Napalm, or whatever his name is now, Napalm. I used to love listening to him rant.
Yeah, he's the best ranter I've ever seen,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, and people who don't know what we're talking about are actually feel sorry for them, because some of the most, I mean, that was what YouTube was always supposed to be, is as far as it seemed at the beginning of YouTube. It was just people talking shit at their computer and other people talking shit about the people talking shit, just like it would really be. But it just got so venomous and toxic. And what they used to call ponage back in the day, nowadays is, bullying and can get you kicked off, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
Um,
there's
and
actually
maybe
like
it always was bullying, Peach. I don't really know. You know what I
I
mean?
I didn't really see it that way. I took it as um like kind of like mean-spirited um banter, but not
Yeah.
in the way that people wanted you to just to kill yourself. And it kind of moved towards that. I mean, there's actually a community on YouTube now that calls themselves the Hater Nation, because that's kind of what they that's what they cater to. They cater to they don't call it ponage anymore. They call it spilling the tea. And it's
Okay.
so puerile, and they just kind of go back and forth with um these, what do they call them? Expose videos, and they go after other content creators over nonsense. And I thought, you know what, we kind of started that, but so I guess it's kind of our fault, but it's it's another thing that just kind of ruined it for me.
Right. Well, I never really did very many ponage style videos. In fact, I think the only real actual ones I tried to do were for the ponage Olympics, you know, but I did take people to task in the same way that you didn't really pwn anybody. You just took people to task. I mean, I used to ream the shit out of Brock Lally over and over again. I made more videos to Brock than any other person on YouTube.
That was fun.
Well, he was an easy target, as low hanging fruit. I admit
Yes.
that, but for me, I didn't want to feel like, I don't know, somehow it seemed less bandwagony than say Venom Fang X or some of the others. But yeah, but I have to guess, back in the day, you wanted to get subscribers every once in a while. Jumping on a bandwagon didn't seem like a bad idea, you know. But
Yeah, and sometimes, sometimes it was entertaining, and also helpful when people were being false flagged.
right.
But yeah, and it's slowly became more and more um, toxic, and it just kind of, I don't know, maybe it took on a life of its own. But yeah,
I mean, as you said, when the feminism topic, for me, it wasn't the feminism per se. It was that whole thing that Thoughtful Atheist started about, she asked for it. And that started this big storm, which split the community, from my point of view anyway, right down the middle. And I was like, I think I made 5 or 6 videos about it myself, because I felt very strong feelings about that. you
yeah.
know, and once upon a time, everybody had this. I guess it was faux respect, because that really did turn people who were like super bro with me for a long time, and it's like, oh dude, you're one of them kind of guys, and I still get that today for being like too pro woke or whatever.
Oh
uh,
my God, yes. I have this old video that I made to Cat Black, still up, and someone commented on it the other day, saying that if I were still active, I would probably be canceled for being anti-woke. And I hate that word, woke. No, no actual progressive uses it. It's always used by, uber conservative
I don't
types.
know if they once upon a time used it or not. I couldn't say. I don't pay that much attention. But I mean, I know that the anti-woke right is like super venomous about all this shit. And I personally think they make shit up on purpose to have these diversionary controversies,
Yep.
like the Dr. Seuss thing last year or whatever, or Mr. Potato Head. I mean, come on. I don't really care, but really, is that worth arguing about when the world's falling down around us? Do you know what I mean?
Well, when they're supporting a criminal president, yeah, they will attach themselves to anything that will distract their audience.
Right, right. Yeah. Oh, I mean, this is way off the normal interview right now, but I mean, like, I was obviously abroad, and I still had trouble sleeping at night when Trump was president sometimes. You know what I mean? I mean, what was it like for you? Because you must have had very strong feelings about a lot of the things coming out of Trump's mouth. You know?
I remember election night and just feeling like, "Oh my God, where are we gonna go?" I mean, I was actually thinking, I think we may have to leave the country. Um, and there's still this sense of uncertainty, because he could run again. There's nothing to stop him. So, and if he were to get into office again, I don't think democracy would survive.
No,
But well, at
he
least not
has
here.
intentions of not letting it survive, right? I mean, uh,
Exactly.
and that would probably be the only way he could get in. And that's the worst thing, right? Is they set up this whole fake election thing last time, and said, oh, it's all been stolen and everything like that. And so next time, if the Republicans manage to actually steal it, it'll sound like sour grapes coming from the Democrats, you know, and
Exactly.
the whole thing is it's just set up really bad. And the only thing that I can see that will definitely get us out of the way is a divine intervention. And I don't believe in God. So there you go.
Well, the only thing that's gonna save us is some very brave prosecutor actually charging him with something
Right.
and
Yeah.
actually convicting him.
Well, the sooner the charges come, the better, because I'm pretty sure you can't run for president if you're under investigation for felony charges. You know, I mean, and even if you can, should you be able to? I
Well, no,
mean,
of course not. But I don't think there's anything like officially barring someone from running for president if they're under criminal investigation. I don't think there's anything written that says you can't do that. I think there just never was that expectation to begin with that we would ever be in a position like that where this has to be sussed out. No, you can't run for president if you might be going to prison.
right. Yeah, pretty good. Or use the presidency as a shield from prosecution, you know, which is, I think, what his goal of being president really is, and why he wouldn't
Yeah.
want to get up after 4 years, even though constitutionally 4 years would all he would get, even if he got in. But that's why I think you're right about, you know, if Trump gets in, democracy, because he will try to run for another term, even if he's old and clearly senile, he'll still try to do it because it's his only guarantee of, you know, not. Well, maybe it's not, because they're not prosecuting him now, and there's overwhelming evidence, you know. So
Well, those New York prosecutors resigned because the assistant district attorney um, is refusing to go forward with with the investigation
yeah,
or to actually bring charges. And they're
right,
saying, okay, he's clearly guilty. What's the problem? And so they
right.
resign. So yeah, it does look that way in New York. Georgia, however, might be a different story. I
Fingers
hope.
crossed on that one. All right, I'm going to go back to my list of questions here, my dear. Right. Now, you might have to give this one some thought, but what do you think is the biggest mistake that you've ever made, and why?
The biggest mistake I ever made. Um, it would probably be cutting off my family for a long time.
Right.
I, yeah, I think that's probably the worst thing I did.
I mean, and but you feel from what you said before that you were sort of emotionally manipulated into that mindset. Is that a fair representation of what you said, or have I misunderstood?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's hard to, to even admit that because I don't think that's what my father was intending to do, but at the same time, he did often make me feel bad if I ever spoke favorably about anyone on my mom's side, including my younger siblings who had nothing to do with anything that went on between him and my mother. And
Sure.
even at the time, I thought, okay, that's not fair. So, but I guess it really does kind of go back to, yeah, to the years of conditioning of, well, they're all the same kind of
Or whatever.
mentality.
Yeah. Hmm. Wow. Well, I mean, and as has that mistake something that you've since tried to sort of, you know, turn around?
Yeah, yeah. We've had a few family reunions over the past couple years. I mean, obviously we couldn't during, the past 2 years with the pandemic and all. But I went, let's see, when was it? 2017, just like 2 months before Damon was born. So I was big as a house. And that was like the first time a bunch of them had seen me since I was a little kid. So I felt kind of self-conscious. It's like,
Okay.
ah, I'm huge. And then and then we went again 2 years later. So, Damon was born, he was almost 2 years old. And that was the last time because, right after that, COVID, and
Mm,
then yeah, we just haven't really been back since. And they all kind of congregate in Washington State because that's where a bunch of them moved to.
right. Is that why you drove to Washington a few years ago?
We didn't drive to Washington
Oh, you
State.
flew. Oh, okay. You flew. 'Cause
Yeah, we flew.
I think I remember Raven saying you guys went to Washington. So that's why you went then. I get it.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, driving from coast to coast is arduous. I've effectively done that over the past 2 years since I moved back. Because of the pandemic, we didn't want to fly. And, so I have family in California, family in St. Louis. So, and I'm in Colorado. So we ended up driving. That's the only safe way to go. And
Yeah, that's too long a haul for me.
yeah,
I
well,
don't think I could stay in
especially
a
with
car
kids
that
in the
long.
car, with kids in the car. I mean, it's a nightmare. I mean, I can't even imagine, what it was like for people with like 3 or 4 kids to road trip to Yosemite or, whatever, Yellowstone. Yeah, I just can't imagine.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, me neither, and we're actually, like, trying to hold off on family vacations until the boys are older, because
sure.
traveling with small kids is definitely a nightmare.
Oh yeah, been there, done that. Yeah, for sure. Okay, getting back to this sort of personal, you might have to think about it kind of questions. Um, and this is going to be hard for you because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've got a completely wrong impression of you. But you strike me as someone who's like scrupulously honest most of the time. So what do you think is the worst lie you've ever told?
Telling someone that I love them and I didn't.
That definitely is up there. I'm sure that's the worst lie anyone's ever told me. So, you know, yeah. And how long ago was that?
Uh, 12 years ago?
Okay. And did you say that to the person because they wanted to hear it, or because you felt it but you didn't really feel it? Or, I mean, do you know what I mean? Sometimes you say things because you want it to be true, and it, you know,
I think it was more like, being playful and flirty, not realizing that the other person was taking it seriously.
right. I got you. Okay. Okay. Well, that definitely, that I understand that. And yeah, enough said about that. Wink. Um, anyway, what do you reckon? Kids don't count. What do you reckon is your proudest achievement?
Oh, kids don't count.
Yeah.
Uh, mm,
Otherwise,
uh,
everybody, same question. Who had kids? I mean, same answer. So kids don't count.
well, let's see. Proudest achievement, I guess, was actually being able to buy a home, and that is something I never thought I'd be able to do because um, I, I grew up thinking that only rich people could buy homes, could buy
Same.
their own houses, and the rest of us peasants had to rent, and yeah, I can thank Raven for that because I never would have ever come up with the idea to purchase a home and to actually pull it off because
Mm.
my credit sucks. So I guess that's kind of an achievement.
Yeah, I've never bought a house. I mean, I when I was with my second wife, we owned a house, but she bought it, I have to say, so I never bought a house. I've always rented because, quite honestly, I'm one of these people that thinks if I was going to buy a house, I'd want to know for sure I was going to live there the rest of my life. That would be
Right.
my home. That would be my home. That's where I live, and I've been to, what's the word? I've moved around too much, and that includes having my own places, but more often than not having roommates. Peach, I've had like 60 roommates in the course of my life.
Hmm.
It's-
I'm way too much of a loner to do that.
yeah, I can tell by your expression that was priceless.
Yeah, I don't like people in my space. I don't.
Right. And sharing space is difficult. I mean, I don't care how much you might like your cohabitors, whether they're your partner or your friends or your family members. Occasionally, you're going to get on each other's nerves. It's just going to happen. So,
Exactly.
to paraphrase Bob Marley, you got to pick people that it's worth it for. Pick people who it's okay that this person upsets me because look at this person. Wow. I'm so lucky to have them, and they're so lucky to have me, kind of a thing. Anyway. Right. Okay. So this is pure fantasy. This is not in any way based in anything real. So if you could have 3 wishes, what would they be? And one of them cannot be for you.
One of them cannot be for me.
Yeah.
Okay. 3 wishes. Pay off all my debts. Um, let's see. That would definitely be the big one.
That's all you just, why not wish for $1 billion there, and then you got extra as well.
I don't need $1 billion. I just want to
Nobody
pay
does.
off all my
Nobody
debt.
does.
Second would be for me. Gosh, what else do I want? um, I don't know. Maybe s- that's not a wish. That's just a dream. A wish for hmm. I The second thing I would wish is to be back in touch with my dad, and that seems impossible. So that would definitely require a genie. And the third thing is to find a cure for HIV.
Nice. Yep. I like it. I like that kind of thinking.
I
Uh,
almost said find a cure for autism, but that might offend a lot of people.
sure.
So I just
Yeah.
went the next one.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's a whole discussion. I just watched that Star Trek the other day about Geordi going to this planet. I think it's called the Masterpiece Society. This episode, and they go to this planet where everything's perfect. These people are genetically engineered to do what they do, and Geordi would not exist on that planet. And then
Yeah,
he
fine.
comes up with the thing that saves the planet, kind of a thing. So yeah, yeah. So yeah, I hear that. Right. Um, you can take this any way you want. Uh, if you could, like, if you had a magic wand and you could go, whoosh, what would you change about yourself? Anything?
Yeah, a smaller ass. Um, let's see. I have a lot of scarring on my face from when I had acne, and I would definitely wave that away. Uh, hmm. And oh, yes, I would definitely take away the um I wouldn't say it's pudginess, but kind of like a strange stretching um result from having been pregnant twice. I would get rid of that. I mean, that's not even something that I don't think sit-ups could get rid of. It's just it's not it's not fat, it's just it's skin and
Right.
yeah.
That was stretched out and went back together. And yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It
Well,
just makes me feel like cottage cheese. I'm like, "Ah, I used to have a somewhat cute belly and now it's gone."
aw, yeah. Well, uh, I think that's interesting. So all the things you changed about yourself were physical.
Yeah, well,
Which must mean you really like who you are, which is great.
generally speaking, yes. I don't think I don't think I'm like that bad of a person. I think I do pretty well. Um, I do tend to stutter when I get nervous, but I don't think that's technically a bad thing.
No, no. Well, like I said before, and maybe I've got you all wrong, but you just strike me as a scrupulously honest kind of a person. You know what I mean? I mean, you
Well, thank
strike me as very much I don't have time for bullshit kind of person. Is
I don't. I don't. I don't
that
have a lot of patience for it.
right? Right. Well, I have been cursed and blessed with patience for it, and it gives me rewards, but it also costs me dearly. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Anyway, so another fantasy question. Let's just say there's a dinner party and there's 8 people at the table, being one of being you. So you get to invite 7 people. They could be from any point in history, and on any criteria that you think would make an interesting dinner party. You know,
Okay. Jesus.
are you exclaiming or actually saying Jesus would be?
Jesus.
Oh,
Jesus of Nazareth.
Jesus would be the
Because
party.
we would need to clear up a lot of things.
Hmm.
So I would definitely want him at the dinner table.
Well, what if Jesus didn't actually exist? Then what would you have at the
Well, that
table?
would clear up a lot of things right there,
Well,
wouldn't it?
it'd be an empty seat, right? It'd be Jesus. This is your seat. You're not coming. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's one. Two would be Amelia Earhart, because we would need to clear up some things there as well. Um, let's
What
see.
would you ask Amelia Earhart?
I would ask her what she was thinking taking that last flight, not having enough fuel to get to the major airport that she needed to go to. Because, I mean, we all know what happened to her, but we just want to know why she took such a risk.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. Third would be, well, English speaking people say Anne Frank, but I would definitely want her there because she's somebody who kind of had a huge impression on me when I was about that age, 13.
All right.
Um, she was required reading in school, but like that was her accounts stuck with me, well, pretty much to this day. And I always felt like she was a very relatable person. And then to think about what happened to her is I mean, she's just one person who went through that.
Right.
It's always important to remember that. But yeah, I would definitely want her at the dinner table.
I've never read the Diary of Anne Frank.
Really?
Yeah,
It's
it was required reading at school, and I literally back. I think I was 10 when we are supposed to read that, or maybe 12. But anyway, whatever age I was, my attitude at the time was, well, just because you're telling me everyone in school has to read it is the exact reason why I'm not going to read it. I was total nonconformist at that in my head. You know what I mean? I just like, nope, you're telling me I have to. That means I'm definitely not gonna. You know?
Yeah, no, I absolutely get that. There were a couple of other books that I was assigned to read and think, this isn't great just because you say it's great.
Right. Like
Um,
Mark.
Actually, I remember the required reading that we had regarding her diary was not actually her diary. It was the play that was written based on her diary. And I ended up reading the diary on my own and being kind of annoyed that the play got so much fictionalized.
Oh,
Um,
right. They padded it out.
yeah, and I always get annoyed when people change events of people's lives, people who actually existed. It's like, oh no, this was a real person. Why are you changing the history there? Even for like a movie or something. I
You
always
must hate Inglorious Bastards and Once Upon a Time in
that's
Hollywood.
not that's not that's almost a spoof. That's different.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we got Anne Frank, we got Amelia Earhart, and we got Jesus. So that's four more people.
Okay, so um, Malcolm X. I
Cool.
would definitely want to talk to him because that is somebody I've had very mixed feelings about. He is someone I thought has been one of the greatest orators of the 20th century, but he believed in awful things. But
Some
he
things, but he also had a lot of wise things to say, and that's the
exactly.
thing is hard to reconcile. You
Yeah,
know,
it is because, and then I think, well, he was in a cult, and that warped some of his thinking. But at the same time, he came from a place where he was genuinely trying to help people, and I can see that in his in the footage of his speeches. So it's a very conflicted feeling toward him, but I think he would be utterly fascinating to talk to.
yeah. I think that's pretty cool. I think it's hard because, like, it's especially difficult for people in this modern time to put your head in where things were, say, in the late 50s to the middle 60s or whatever, when Malcolm X was shot. You know, things were changing and the atmosphere was in it's something that people nowadays can't possibly relate to because the United States has changed so much since then, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But I mean, it's so different now. I mean, I'm sure lots of people can't even figure out what the world was like before the internet now. You know what I mean? I
Yep.
mean,
The
yeah.
young people, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So who's next?
All right, what number am I on?
That's four people you've nominated, so you get to nominate three more.
Okay. All right, so the fifth person would be Barack Obama.
Cool.
I just I still hope for a day that I could possibly meet him, even though that's not going to happen. But uh, kind of for the same thing with Malcolm X. I see very similar deliveries in their oratory skills, and
Mm.
I think it would be more like I would rather they talk to each other than me talk to them and just listen to them have a discussion with those similar deliveries. That would be amazing.
Well, yeah, and I just Malcolm X going, dude, you were president. Really? You were actually president of America? What year
Yeah,
did you get elected? It's like, yeah. Because I mean, I honestly thought I'd never see the day. I mean, I really thought literally never see the day. So,
same here. Same here.
yeah.
All
Okay,
right,
so Barack Obama asks two more.
two more. Um, One would be my great great grandmother. Her name was Mariah Braxton, and she is a mystery in my family. There is so much unanswered questions regarding her because
Is it paternal or maternal grandmother?
paternal.
All right, okay.
So she was my
Dad's
my
great grandmother.
my father's grandmother. Wait,
Right,
grandma? Yeah, no, great great grandma. So my father's great grandmother.
right.
So what's interesting about her is when I looked her up, because I've been doing my ancestry for years, she shows up on the 1900 census with her family, but there's no husband. She has a bunch of kids, but there's no husband. And ever since then, there was a rumor, family rumor, that the father of her children actually had another family in this same small town.
Right.
And she ended up having like numerous husbands afterward, but it was never determined specifically who the father of her children were. Only that it was rumored to be this man who had a wife and a bunch of kids through her as well. And what's truly interesting about that, stupid furnace just popped on.
Mhm.
What's truly interesting about that is that her granddaughter, which was my grandmother, married the grandson of the man that supposedly fathered the children,
Oh,
which
wow.
would have made them first cousins.
Yeah, I suppose so. Or is that second cousins?
No, they would have been first cousins
First,
because,
their parents were siblings.
right,
Right. Okay. Yeah.
if
Wow.
that was in fact true. And there is a way to prove that through DNA testing. It's just that um, I don't think I could ever like organize that kind of campaign because I mean I really don't know my dad's family too much, but it would be too much of a hassle because like for example, I couldn't use my dad because he um he is mm, since he descends from the grandmother, it would be a little bit difficult to compare DNA to a great grandfather, great grandmother,
Great grandmother.
or
Yeah.
great grandfather. And I would actually have to find out like his distant cousins from his uncles because it would have to go by the Y chromosome and it would just be too much of a nightmare. So if I had the option, I would just ask her.
Well, I find it interesting that you even know the name of a great great grandparent. Right. Most people don't know the name of their great grandparents, much less their great great grandparents. So I mean,
Ancestry.com.
oh, that's what I was going to ask. So you went ahead. Do you send your own DNA for that?
I did. I did. And that actually confirmed who my father's father was. He wasn't entirely sure. And I was able to narrow it down to a specific person because the DNA confirmed it. Because when you do your DNA, it shows the genetic matches of other people who also submitted their DNA.
Hmm.
And going by their last names, I was like, oh yeah, okay, now I know who my grandfather was.
Hmm.
But yeah, I didn't know any of them. I didn't know any of their names, but ancestry.com, it has all these records, the census records, and you just kind of work backwards from there. And that's how I know.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I asked Eric this question as well when I interviewed him, because he's also, done quite a lot of family genealogy type exploring. But I mean, do you worry about like what they're going to do with your data after you send it? I mean, or do they have some promise that they're going to destroy your data and they don't file it or sell it on or any of that kind of that information? Because I mean, I
don't really care. I
that's
don't
what a
I
lot
don't
of
really
people
care.
think, and I
What
find
are they
that
going to do? Clone me?
no, I don't think they're going to clone you, but I mean, I don't. The fact that I don't know what they're going to do with it is worrying to me. I just like, well, if I knew what they were going to do with it, and I can make an informed decision about whether or not you
Well,
know,
I
but
guess
I don't know what they can do with it. Yeah.
the question becomes, what can they do with it? You know, apart from like, um, I guess, just for research purposes, what can they take away from me by having a sample of my DNA?
Hmm.
And that's kind of how I look at it. You know, I even uploaded my results into GEDmatch because there could be, there could be a cold case out there, and the perpetrator might be related to me, and I may help solve that case just,
Oh, wow.
just from that, because that's happened in the past couple of years. So yeah, I mean, I'm not worried, because I can't imagine that they can take something from me or violate my privacy in some way just by
Hmm.
having a sample of my DNA.
Okay, fair enough. We have one more person for the dinner party now to invite. So we've got Jesus, we've got Amelia Earhart, we've got Anne Frank, we've got your great great grandmother. Who else did we already say? Oh my God, I should have written it down.
Obama.
Thank you, Obama and Malcolm X. Yeah, that was the other two. Yeah,
Well, then the seventh person would be Raven, because I can't have
nice.
a dinner party without her.
Totally. It would have been very suspicious if you didn't. Yeah. I think so. Anyway, that's no, that's pretty cool, and I think it would make for interesting conversations. But you reckon you'd be mostly a fly on the wall, or would you be an interrogator?
I would be a fly on the wall because that's how I am. When I'm in, in a crowd of people, sitting around socializing, I just kind of sit there and listen. I don't really engage too much, just because it's just not who I am. And I always feel awkward, but at the same time, I'm trying not to be too creepy about it.
Right. I'm weird about parties, right? Like if I go to someone else's party, I might just talk to the people I went with and not talk to anybody else. And if I didn't go with anybody and went there hoping to meet somebody, I might just be one of those people on the wall or somebody who mills around but never actually lingers and hopes that nobody notices that I haven't stopped and I'm not talking to anybody. On the other hand, if I throw a party and 100 people come, I'll make a point of talking to every single person in my party. You know,
That
um,
almost sounds like a chore.
it can be a chore if 100 people come, or more. But that's what I used to love about Blog TV back in the day, because on Blog TV, you could have like 200 people come through your room in a space of 3 hours, and there's no mess afterwards, and you can kick them all out whenever the fuck you want. It's amazing.
I miss Blog TV.
Yeah. Well, I mean, these streams are as close as we've been able to get to Blog TV. And I don't know. I guess they just don't get utilized in quite the same way, but I don't see why not, really. You know,
It's strange, but I never really got into Twitch, and
no,
I guess I should have, because I really liked Blog TV, but Twitch seems a little, I don't know,
well,
massive.
I got to the point, and this is years ago. I got to the point where I'm just like I'm saturated with. I can't take on new platforms. Taking on any new platforms, I mean, I abandoned one that I'm already on, and I'm just barely clinging on to YouTube right now. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's a toughie. It's a toughie. So you said you wouldn't want to take any holidays with the kids until the kids were a bit older. How much older would you want them to be, and where would your first holiday be, assuming that money was not a factor?
Well, I would prefer uh, the youngest to be 4 or 5 years old, and of course, the first place we will go is Disney World.
Right. Nice. Have you been there before?
Once, about 5 years ago, I believe it was. It was, yeah. No, I'm sorry, 6 years ago. Raven and I went with her two eldest kids.
Nice. Wow. I've never been to Disney World in Florida, but I've been to Disneyland in LA. I don't even know how many times, maybe 8 times or 10. And I actually love it. I feel almost embarrassed to say that. It's like admitting you like to eat at McDonald's. You know what I mean?
There's no shame in that either. There's no shame in either one of those things.
Well, I agree. I mean, I do both. Well, I haven't gone to Disneyland for ages, but I don't eat. I eat McDonald's to stop being hungry. I don't think I'm getting a good meal. I just want to stop being hungry for 10 minutes, and so I go get a McDonald's. You know what I mean? That's what it's for. It's like,
Exactly.
especially now, because now I don't eat candy bars anymore. So McDonald's, you know what I mean?
There's your
Back,
junk food.
well, I used to be like really a chocolate junkie basically, and it's not good for you, you know. And when you're younger, your body might put up with it, but the older you get, the more likely it is not going to do you any favors. And about 2 years ago, or just before the pandemic, actually, I got the doctor and they took my blood, and I'm like, oh shit, they're going to tell me I've got diabetes because it would not be uncommon for me to tilt back 2 liters of Dr. Pepper and have a pack of cookies, and I mean, on and on, right? Anyway. And when I got there, the doctor says, well, you don't have any cholesterol buildup. You don't have diabetes. Your heart rate and blood pressure and everything's fine. And I thought, yippee. And I was so surprised. I texted everybody. And then my
And
gal,
you went and celebrated with a huge burger.
well, almost, but my gal, who wasn't my gal yet, I was on the phone to her, and I told her the good news, right? And she says, well, Paul, that's a yellow light, not a green light. And I thought about it. I thought, you know what? You're right. You can't cheat forever. You can't get away with this shit forever. Sooner or later, it's going to catch up with you. You know what I mean? And so time to put on the brakes when you recognize that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I did that last year because I had blood work done and it showed that my cholesterol was elevated, which was surprising to me. So yeah, I did work pretty hard to kind of bring that down. And actually, it wasn't that hard because I was still losing the baby weight, and so I ended up losing most of it, and
Mm,
that kind of corrected the problem. But I do worry about diabetes because I had gestational diabetes with Kai, and it runs diabetes itself runs on my father's side of the family. He has it. A bunch of my
mm,
cousins have it, so I know I'm at a high risk for it.
sure.
But yes, I am a junk food junkie. It's bad.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm nowhere near as bad as I was before I moved to America. I mean, I literally couldn't admit on the internet how bad I used to be, how bad my diet used to be. I'd be too afraid of it becoming a meme. Um, you know. Anyway, um, what else? I just had a question again about. Oh yeah, so where would you go? Disneyland,
Mhm.
and would you go with the older kids again, or just the younger
Oh
kids?
no, no, they can't come.
They
No.
can't come. They've been there.
They've been there and
You did that already. Yeah,
yeah. They
fair
they
enough.
can they can pay for their own trip if they want.
Okay. So a little while ago when I asked you, you know, if you could change anything about yourself, what would you? And you list the first three things you listed off were like physical changes. I mean, like if you like literally won a lottery ticket and it's had like 100 grand on it, would you get that stuff like surgically done?
I would I would definitely consider it.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is something that Raven and I often talk about because, she being trans and she's talking about the kind of work that she would like to have done f- for gender affirmation. But we all we also talk about, what what else we would like to do if money wasn't a factor.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, it's vanity. It's pure vanity, but yeah, I would consider it. I don't know if I'd actually do it, but I would definitely consider it, and I would look into it.
Hmm. Well, Peach, you may or may not know this about me, but I have hundreds of famous quotes. And one of my famous quotes is embrace vanity. It's like free drugs. Right. Um,
Yeah,
because
I don't see a problem with it.
no, I don't see a problem with it as long as it doesn't tip into arrogance. Vanity is
Yeah,
cool. You know what I mean? Um,
definitely.
and I am proudly vain. you
Me
know,
too.
yeah, it's yeah. And another one of my famous quotes is, "If you don't spoil yourself, it's too important a job to leave to anybody else." You know, so you got to do it. You know. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I find it interesting because a lot of people have very negative opinions about people who get things done like plastic surgery or whatever, and I can't have those opinions because I was a body piercer for 14 years, and it's be a bit rich for me to put metal in people and say that's cool, but say, oh, you can't augment yourself in this other way because someone else is making money on that. No. That's, to me, that's not right. And just the principle that your body is your own, to me,
Exactly.
it opens and closes right there. you know
Now, that's not to say that, I kind of, raise an eyebrow at people who get excessive work done where it's almost cartoonish,
yeah, I've seen quite
where
a few of that.
yeah, I mean, I'll think, "Okay, you went too far, and for what?" But, I mean, ultimately, I don't have, like, a moral issue with it, it's their own body. If they wanna mutilate it, they can.
I totally hear that. And I've, like I say, it's 14 years of basically being paid to mutilate people. I mean, technically speaking, even if you get your ears pierced, that's mutilating, because
Yeah.
by definition, if you look at the dictionary, because I got picked up hitchhiking one time on my way to work at my shop. And the ladies who picked me up, like, spotted my tattoos and my piercings in my ears. I used to have the big glass earrings back then. You remember the great big curly ones?
Yes.
And anyways, and they're sort of asking me about it. And I told them what I did for a living. They almost stopped the car and let me out. They were disgusted, and they say, "Oh, I can't believe that you exploit people by mutilating them." And at the time, I wasn't familiar with a dictionary definition of mutilation. So I argued that I don't mutilate people. People come to me because they want some jewelry put in their skin, and I do it for them and help them do it, help do it for them without, making them scared or hurting them. That's my job, is to try not to hurt people and give them what they want. That's my job. That was how I saw my job. And then I went straight to the dictionary and looked up mutilate, and it said basically surgically alter your body. I'm like, oh, I guess that's it then. It's like, technically it is. Okay, fine. I guess I'm guilty. But I don't feel bad about it. Not one little bit.
Yeah, and of all things to be, hung up about, piercings are the easiest to reverse if you regret
Right.
it.
Well, and not to blow my own horn too much, but the best part about being a body piercer for someone with my personality is the fact that people come to me scared and leave happy. And I get to be a part of the process of watching that happen. And that's why, to me, it was a gift. I never, ever, if you went back to me at the age of, say, 20 and said, Paul, when you get to be 40, you'll be stabbing people for money, I'd be like, no, I won't. Not me. I'm a lover, not fighter, and all that. Oh, anyway. Right. I think this is a good point to wrap up the live interview. And I want to thank you very much for your participation and everything.
No, it was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you like, I'll shoot you invites to the Saturday broadcast as well. I know you're there lurking sometimes. You might as well be on camera once in a while.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do lurk often. I usually watch after I put the boys to bed.
Right.
That's typically what I'm doing when Raven is first getting on.
Sure.
But yeah, I might hop on at some point.
How are the boys getting along, by the way?
Well, they've reached to the point where they both want to play with the same toys at the same time, so there's a lot of tug of war. Other than that, they get along okay. I'm actually impressed that Damon doesn't appear to be, like, super jealous or anything.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, but I mean, that level that you just described, a sibling rivalry, is almost inevitable, and it doesn't really matter if they're the same gender or not. You know what I mean? I mean, they're gonna, especially when they're close in age, there's gonna be a little bit of no mine, no mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is right now Damon kind of has the upper hand because he is the older brother, but Kai is a very large child, and he is very likely going to end up being bigger than Damon.
Oh, wow.
So we kind of look at Damon and think, enjoy that upper hand while you still have it. It's not going to be much longer.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're totally digging the parenthood thing, right? I mean, like, when you first, in fact, let's just carry on for a while. when you first decided, yeah, let's do it, right? I mean, was it like a flash, or did you sort of grow into the idea?
No, it was something that had been on my mind for years, and in fact, I was always kind of afraid to broach the subject because, one, Raven already has children and they were grown, and it's like, why would anybody want to start over after they've already raised their children? And two, it was kind of is this safe, because she's HIV positive. So there was that, thing hanging in my mind. But when her doctor said, hey, she's been on this medication for many years, and clinical studies have shown that once a person is undetectable, they can't transmit the virus. It can't do anything. So it is safe. And if you want to go for it, then go ahead. Yeah. As soon as we got that, confirmation, we're like, yeah, let's go ahead and do this.
Wow, cool. And did you find it hard to conceive?
No, surprisingly, no. I was actually quite worried about my chances because I was actually the first time I became pregnant, I was 35, and it it, it was on the first try,
Wow.
and I ended up miscarrying, and then we tried again the next year, and that's when we got pregnant with Damon, and again, first try.
Hmm.
And then when we decided to have another, again, first try. I mean, it was like effortless. And I was
There's a
thinking,
word for that, my dear.
oh,
There's a word for that. It's called fertile,
yeah.
right?
But I'm like, how is this possible? We're old. How did we conceive so quickly? I'm glad I wasn't sexually active when I was younger, because I would have definitely ended up with a whole bunch of babies I wasn't ready for.
Well, that's the thing as well. I mean, and because I mean, you and Raven have been together for more than 10 years now, right?
Yeah,
I
almost
guess
12 years.
right. So, and I guess before Raven, you probably didn't have anybody in your life that you would have even considered, like,
No, not
parenting.
really.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I kind of thought, oh, well, maybe this just isn't going to happen for me.
Right. Oh, when you guys first got together, you mean?
No, well, yeah, but I mean, before I
Oh,
thought, well,
right.
yeah, maybe kids are not in my future. And I tried to like make peace with that, but there was always something in my head saying, I'm never going to be satisfied with that.
Right.
I
Yeah.
want children.
Yeah. I mean, my own daughter goes through that. I think she's got to a point where she's like, if I get pregnant, great, but if I don't, I'm not gonna beat myself up about it, kind of a thing.
Yeah, no, that's a healthy way of looking at it.
Yeah, I guess so. And like, uh, when you what went through your head when you, like, literally the first time you're going, because that's a hell of a moment. I've been there for my two kids. Well, it's a hell of a moment, right? What was going on in your head? Because you're exhausted, obviously.
Well, not really, because they were both born by C-section.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I didn't know that. I forgot.
So, like, the first time I actually got to see Damon was in the operating room. I was not able to hold him because I was on an operating table, but the nurse brought him to me and kind of put him next to my face, and I remember very vividly how I just kind of stared, and I said, "Oh my God, you're even more beautiful than I imagined." And then after I was, sewed up and put back into the bed, they brought him to me, and he was fussing, which I would find out later would be a common theme with him. And they put him in my arms, and he was still fussing, and I said, "Hi, beautiful." And it was the most amazing thing to me. He stopped whining and kind of did a slow turn and look at me. And I said, "Yeah, you know me. I look better on the outside."
Do you think that when they first come out, babies look like shriveled up old people that have been shrunk down?
Maybe when they're, squeezed out, but he was smooth, and he had like
Okay, right.
a
Oh,
perfectly round head.
Oh dear, yeah. That reminds me of a very bad joke I once made to Jacob Trubin, which is so bad I can't repeat it online. Oh, I miss that guy. Anyway,
Me too. I really loved his videos, and I liked the collaboration he did with his brother. I wish they
oh
would
yeah,
go back to doing that.
yeah. I think they almost had a TV show with that
Oh, that
channel.
would have been great.
I think they just missed it. I don't know for sure about that, but I can't remember why I think that now. I think I might have read something about how they were going for an interview or something. I don't know. I don't remember. But their show, there was the frat.
Fratocrats.
Yeah, Fraticats. That's it. Yeah, I love that. I love
Yeah,
that. I
me
thought it was
too.
super clever.
I used to really enjoy those videos.
The blindfold hide and seek was particularly good because the GoPro.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. And especially because they're in this tiny little London flat, right? I mean, there's no place to hide. So there's only so many places you
And
can.
they're really just trying to stay quiet while somebody is like
Right.
feeling around.
Yeah. You got to measure your breathing and all that. No, yeah. And yeah, Jacob obviously, as you know, was one of the first people on this version of the Breakfast Club, but unfortunately he bailed after like 4 videos. He was the first one to go. Yeah.
Yeah, it happens. People, they either lose interest or they got other things.
Well, that's right. But I mean, if you think about it, we've managed to keep this channel going for, I guess it's 7 years. In November, it'll be 7 years.
Mhm.
And that's right. I think 7 years. Anyway, and in that time, we've had obviously the first 6 people, and then we've had Sister Danger, Nathan, Landon Cole,
Mhm.
Ginger Greek, Edible Napalm did a guest video. Agent of Doubt's done the guest videos. But I'm trying to think of regular people. Oh, obviously Kazoom and Bionic Dance. Duh. Oh no, Bionic Dance was in the original 6, 7. But yeah, I think about 20 people or more have been regular hosts, and then a whole bunch of people guest hosting on the channel. So I'm super pleased that whatever's left of the community that used to be still sort of tumbleweeds its way through the Breakfast Club and now the Dinner Club. It's I feel
it all kind of congregates here. It all kind of congregates here, like Peter and Eric, and yeah, they're kind of like whatever's left of what community we used to be part of. It all sort of concentrates here on the Dinner Club. So
well,
that
that's
is kind
right.
of cool. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, I don't know if you were lurking that night or not, but there was a night that we had on me and Joe and Raven, and then there was True Puka, Eric was on, Peter was on, and no, I think that's it. And also one of the girls. I can't remember which of the girls it was, but when we had like a full screen, and it was really like the old crew was like right there. It was really kind of amazing. And then now I know also No Plum is going to be coming back on the streams once in a while when the shifts are favorable. And so that's pretty cool too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's it actually. I never really thought of it that way, but yeah, the Dinner Club is kind of like the meeting place of the old crew.
Yeah, pretty much. And there's people I still try to get back. Like you mentioned Edible Napalm earlier, right? And I'm not exaggerating. I am fucking relentless. I send him an invitation to come on the stream every week, probably not less than 45 weeks a year. I mean, every once in a while it might slip my mind. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to invite Napalm again. And maybe he'll turn up one day, And if he does, everybody would be overjoyed.
I think with him, he probably feels like he would be out of place because we all know how he speaks.
Yeah.
And, when the Dinner Club banter is usually a little bit more subdued. So maybe he thinks he wouldn't fit in. But I personally think that he would be very entertaining.
Yeah, I think so too. And then another one. I mean, Ginger Greek did a minor stint as a regular contributor, and then decided it was not for him. But I mean, that's a guy I'd love to get back on as well, because I mean, there's a certain kind of straight to like Sarahan as well. There's a certain kind of straight talker, that you just don't get anymore on the internet because it becomes so toxic that the straight talkers just find it not worth their while and they fucked off. Do you know what I mean?
Well, speaking of straight talkers, if you're really trying to get someone who is, someone who just speaks their minds with nothing but blunt honesty, maybe Joshua Frost. Wait, what was his username again? I can't remember. It was something Frost.
Oh, Meridian Frost.
Meridian Frost, yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, Josh. Yeah, I mean, he's still very active on Facebook. I don't know if you were aware, but he was on some reality show a couple of years back. Yeah, he was on a reality show, like a reality game show where they do like these competitions regarding blacksmithing, and he won. And we were watching and he won, and we're like, so cool.
Does he actually have blacksmith skills?
Yes, he posts photos of his work all the time, and I'm like, wow, he really did. He makes knives mostly. He loves to show those off, but yeah, he does all kinds of stuff now, and he looks a little like Grizzly Adams now. But yeah, he's very, very active on Facebook, and I think, I think that this might be a good way to kind of get him back, see him. 'Cause
Maybe.
he was
Maybe.
another one I always loved to watch.
I don't know. Me and him, we never fell out as such, but he sort of stopped dealing with me because I did a collaboration video one time, and I made the mistake of inviting Ujem Flipper onto the collaboration because he actually begged to come onto it,
I remember him.
and Skid Row Radio later.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I invited him. He actually heard about the collaboration and asked, he felt that he was being attacked by it, so he wanted to be on it so that he could offer his whatever. And a bunch of people. It wasn't just Josh. It was a couple of people like, what the fuck is that guy doing on? I thought this was about arguing against what him and Diana were fucking talking about or whatever. I can't remember Diana, whoever she was.
Nuclear Night.
Her friend Diana something.
Oh yes, I don't remember her username, but yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it was back then, and Josh basically said to me, "Look, please take me off that video, or take that video off your channel, because I don't want to be associated with that person."
That was
And
years ago.
so that was year. Oh, don't get me wrong. We still talked. I still commented on his videos. He might comment on mine once in a while, but he made it clear that was not okay with him. You know what I mean? And I kind of get it. I mean, I actually do totally get it, because I felt like I painted myself into a corner by saying anybody can contribute, and then I let someone in who was probably had an agenda that I should have been more attuned to. Just a true fact. Yeah. But this, one of my weaknesses is I try to be too damned accommodating. You know what I mean? I try, when, yeah.
You often sometimes, well, not often, but sometimes you have folks on who are just like, what are they doing here?
Right. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'll try anything once and twice if I like it. But I just appreciate people being different. You know what I mean? I mean, vive la différence, as far as I'm concerned. We're all different, and we're all alien to each other, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I have just a hard time with. We all judge people. Everyone is judgmental. I hate it when someone says, "Oh, I'm not judgmental." No, fuck you. We're all judgmental.
We all are.
You know what I mean? It's just a matter of degree, right? I mean, it's just a matter of blatancy as well. I mean, some people might be very judgmental, but just never talk about it because they know that's socially uncool. But they might be hyper judgmental. Anyway, but I used to flatter myself with thinking I wasn't very judgmental. No, I just tolerate a lot of bullshit. It's not quite the same thing.
You do, and I can't. And I actually always felt that was a hindrance to my ability to engage with people on YouTube, because it's like I see, for example, somebody would make a video response to me, and 3 seconds in, I'm like, oh my God, you're an idiot. I can't watch this. And it's like, at the same time thinking, well, this isn't very productive of me, is it?
Sure. But I mean, I'm sure you already know this, but you don't owe anybody a response. You know what I mean? I mean, sometimes, especially back in the day, people would, try to provoke you into responding because it helps them with their channel and all that kind of thing. You know what I mean? And when you first started on YouTube, I remember, because I'm pretty sure my recollection is correct, that we started on YouTube in the same week, and you went from no subscribers to 500 subscribers in the first week to 1,500 subscribers by 3 weeks in. And I'm like, what the fuck? How does she do that? And I know how you do it. It's staring right in front of me right here in the camera is how you do it. But I mean, it's not fair.
I agree. I am not special. I was just one of the few women that was in our community, and we just naturally get all the attention.
It's not that you were just one of the few women. You were very articulate. You're clearly very smart. You made really good arguments, and you clearly didn't take any prisoners. And that was very appealing to a lot of people, And like you mentioned, oh my God, it's Chris. I mean, she came from a different angle, but had a lot of those same qualities. And again, she was a little bit more sort of, I guess, playful about it, but yeah, she was literally the first atheist channel I started watching when I watched a couple of George Carlin videos, and I got on the recommended sign. Oh, she's pretty, click, right? Yeah.
And,
right, guilty as charged, right? I'm part of the problem. I just pointed out. But anyway, but she just made very entertaining, really solid videos about
Yeah.
back in the day. But back in those early days, Pat Condell was still okay to me. It was really like when Pat went down the whole bigotry lane and like really jumped over a few lanes. I just can't get my head around what happened. But it's not just Pat Condell. There's a whole bunch of YouTubers that just went from apparently liberal to what I would call hardcore right people. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah, and I think feminism was the catalyst, but it wasn't the only thing. I mean, there was also this growing feeling of Islamophobia,
right,
and it's they were conflating it with uh, challenging the claims of Islam, and it's like, no, we know what the difference is. You're
right.
attacking people because they're different, and you're painting with a very broad brush, and we get that, we see it. You're using dog whistles. We're not blind to that. So it was that, and then a little bit later on, it was the MRA
Right.
of thing, which ties into the feminism topic, but it became much more, I don't know, just it became very cultish, and then it kind of, I don't know, it
Do you
just kind
remember?
of.
Do you remember the True Force Loneliness guys? Now we would call them incels, but do you remember
Yeah,
those guys back in the
I
day?
do, I do.
Something
And
else.
I actually felt bad for them. I thought, "Okay, you guys are whining, but I understand. I get that you have trouble, meeting people, and you don't think that you have the skills or the natural charm to approach people, and you think you're gonna die alone." And I understand that is a terrible way to live.
Yeah.
I think you're focusing your ire on the wrong things, but then when they turned into incels, and that was usually when the younger people came in, it became very scary.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, there's literally incel community, on the internet, which has actually
I
got
lurk.
you lurk, right? Well,
I
that's
lear
must
I've learned their language, and it is frightening.
it's pure misogyny, isn't it? I mean,
Mhm.
like
Uh,
to put a
that's
label on
just a
it.
small part of it. It's not just misogyny, it's racism, it's classism. Basically, if there's a they use the scale, like the 1 to 10, and if you're not a like a 10, 17-year-old blonde, skinny, huge boobs, model begging to jump on their dicks, they think they're being denied something.
It's shocking. Yeah. I mean, there's a whole mentality that goes into that, which, must come from someplace. Or do you think they're absorbing it from the internet and internalizing it and.
Yes. No, I mean, it's an echo chamber. It starts off with younger men who feel isolated. They may have issues with socializing. A lot of times they are on the spectrum, and they're looking for a community where they can feel like-minded people will understand. They're looking for um, people like them, and then they get caught up in the toxic part where they start feeding off of each other,
Mm,
and they have this running theme where uh, they call each other subhumans because they don't feel as though, because they're not perfect looking, they're never ever going to what they call ascend, meaning they're never going to score unless
right.
they pay for it, which doesn't count, of course.
Right. Do you do any other lurking? Do you lurk right-wing sites or anything like that? Do you lurk Truth Social?
I I can't. I don't have the patience for it. I lurk the incels because I guess it's just a really bizarre fascination, but no, never more than like 5 or 10 minutes, because you start to feel queasy after
I'm
very
sure.
short. It was easier when they were allowed on Reddit. They're not allowed there anymore. They've become even more underground, but yeah, it's Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I just like I say, I can't imagine. I mean, some people, are incels, I guess, because they're socially awkward. Um, but not everybody who's socially awkward goes that way, right? So it's interesting to me what combination of factors makes someone. I mean, is it like, I mean, have they tried and been rejected, or have they never tried? Do you
See,
know?
that's just it. They claim to be rejected, but in most times they have like they don't actually approach anybody, or they do something that is so off-putting that of course they're going to be rejected. Like just cold approaches, that's what they call it, cold approaching. When they just go up to a random stranger and start asking them questions like, "Do you want to go get coffee or something?" No, but they don't know you. Of course not.
Right, right,
What did you think they were gonna say? It's
right.
like they set it up so that they definitely get rejected.
Well, I mean, yeah, because I guess they don't understand that there's, unfortunately, in my opinion, it's kind of unfortunate because I would love to live in a world where you could just spot someone and go, you know what, I'm going to go talk to that person, and it would be okay to do so because everybody was so cool with themselves that it wasn't a thing, right? I just wish I lived in that world, but I don't. And the true fact is that there are certain social situations where it's definitely not okay to flirt. Right. At all. Like, in my point of view, you shouldn't be flirting with random strangers unless there's like some reason, if they give you a look maybe or something, but even then people imagine looks and whatever. Right. So it's like, what do
Yeah,
you.
I don't know, maybe they just don't really understand, I guess, normal human behavior, but they don't quite get that you should not be trying to hit on people when they're grocery shopping,
Right.
they're not there for that.
Right.
They're running an errand. They're just there to get what they need and leave. And they act like, the women in those situations are just being stuck up. And it's you're not seeing it from their perspective. You're a weirdo in their space
Right.
when they're just trying to get food or something, They're not there for that. And yeah, I don't
Have
know.
you
I
been
think
contained
some
with many weirdos in your real life, in your like 3D life?
of my 3D life. Not really. No, because I don't really have a life. Um, Especially with COVID, but even before that, I can't blame it all on the pandemic. I've never been a very social person. Even earlier today, I was telling Raven, you're kind of my only friend.
Oh,
Um, and not in a bad way. I'm not complaining. It's just that's just how I am. I've never really had a huge circle of friends.
well,
There was a
everyone is gregarious, I mean, it's just that, and that's fine. You know what I mean? Some people are
yeah,
gregarious and some aren't.
yeah,
Some people
and
are super shy.
I am, and I'm also kind of awkward too. But to be honest, the area that we live in, it's I don't know, it's not that open to people like us.
Right.
To it's we are part of a local county Democrats council, and that's basically where the only socializing we really do.
Right.
But nobody that I would really call like a friend. We don't hang out, we don't go out.
Sure.
So yeah, so no weirdos. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, and
Also,
also, I mean, and pardon me while I patronize you, but I mean, as much as you and Raven love each other, having an insular life isn't so bad. You know what I mean? And I'm sure when the pandemic first started, you had to make a few adjustments in that regard.
mhm,
As probably everybody in the world did.
of
You know,
course.
but yeah.
No, I mean, I think we're very comfortable. It's just that I agree that one person shouldn't be your entire world, and I don't want to feel like I'm crowding somebody or suffocating them, and I hope I don't come off that way. But yeah, I think it would be healthier for me to have more of a social life. I've just never been really into it that much.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I have, but only when I was younger and like to go out a lot. I like to go dancing, 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 dancing. I don't know. And I
I've always
really
been
miss
shy
dancing.
about dancing.
What's that?
I've always been very shy about dancing, so I didn't do that.
You've said that to me before. I don't even remember in what context, but I remember a video where you sang a song and you was dancing away doing your thing. And You were, and I'm like, that's bullshit. She totally knows how to dance. So what, I mean, I think you're just too humble,
Um, embarrassed mostly. But that short stint that I was in Oklahoma, and I did actually have a small circle of friends in Tulsa. Like I said, we were attracted to the local music scene. I mean, that was kind of the only time in my life where I felt like I had friends. But even then, I didn't see them very often because it was a bit of a drive, and then of course I was working most of the time because I was in the service, and I found myself not really being able to really enjoy some of the gigs that we went to because I have a problem with crowds and I
Mm.
don't like to be touched. So it's like I really can't win here.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough. Well, I mean, yeah, a lot of people have an aversion to crowds, and I can
Yeah.
fully appreciate that. And it's not just the suffocation of space, but they're all strangers, man. You don't know these people. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? So yeah. Hey, how many people? Because you've done a couple of YouTube meetups in your over your years, right? And how many people from YouTube have you met Tommy from the Bronx in person, for example?
No.
He's right there in the comments, right?
Oh, I'm not even reading comments. No, I should actually be reading comments.
Okay, so since you haven't met Tommy from the Bronx in person, then this is a fair question. Is Tommy from the Bronx a character, like a caricature, or is he a real person? I mean, is Tommy from the Bronx really Tommy from the Bronx, or
Well,
is he?
I think he used to be in the Bronx, but not for a very long time. No, I think it's a combination. I think it's part persona, part real person.
I think it comes so naturally to him that it just seems real to me. Do you know what I mean? If it's a persona, he's damn good at it. That's all I've got to say.
I remember some of the early videos, and I'm like, okay, this guy's performing. But yeah, I think some of it is real, is really him, but other parts is just performance
Well,
art.
see, I don't know, because I mean, I've been accused of performing in my videos back in the day, and part of it is true, I suppose, in the sense that because I used to be a DJ, there's a sort of level of presentation that I bring, and I sort of say TFTB is, he's just got a lot of natural charisma, and so it's going to come across like nobody really has that much fucking charisma. Nobody does. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it just seems kind of unreal, but it is real, I think. Oh, here he goes. He says he admits.
Well, you know what? I can't fault him for that because my videos were kind of the same. I mean, it wasn't a I wasn't pretending to be somebody, but it was an outlet for a part of me that doesn't usually see the light of day. I'm not generally so um expressive. I'm usually not very uh argumentative. I'm actually someone who kind of stands back and lets other people shout at each other.
Right.
But it's not like I was pretending. It's just I don't typically feel comfortable doing that in real life.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's a difference as well because sometimes, like for example, I'm going to use your Atheism Plus video, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes when you've got something to say, it's pretty easy to get up there and say it, right? Because when bullshit is so obvious, it's good to point it out so no one else steps in it, right? And I think that's sort of how that video came across to me at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember lots of your videos, and I've only seen them once. You know, but that's there's like very few YouTubers that qualify for that. But I mean, like Sarah Hunt's videos, I remember almost all of Sarah Hunt's videos, right? At least the ones I
Yeah.
watched. Most of your videos, I remember James was a DOS American Atheist. I remember his videos super well. He made some of the best videos as far as I was concerned out there. When he did that video, for him and Brock were going to do this back and forth about music, and then and James did like a really studious one, and it was so like studious that Brock decided to back out of the competition. It's freaking hilarious. Because Brock thought he had the upper hand, because he's a songwriter and all that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I mean, James is a piano teacher,
He's a
and
piano
that's
teacher, yeah,
like he's a virtuoso. So yeah, it's just hilarious to me, you know. Did you know that James was home educated?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, when he said that in one of his videos, I was like, no fucking shit. Okay,
Yeah,
maybe home education isn't everything people say it is, because he's one of the smartest guys I ever encountered back in the day on YouTube, you know?
it happens, but for most of my, observations, people who are homeschooled tend to be underinformed.
Mm. Well,
No, but I know
I'm
that.
sure that can happen a lot, you know, because generally speaking, one of the main reasons that people don't educate their kids in school is because they don't want to vaccinate their kids.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big ones. Um, but other ones, obviously, most of it's religious as well. And sometimes those two things are tied together. Um,
In both cases, it's just a means of control. Like, there are obviously, there are legitimate reasons to homeschool, and I just haven't really seen a whole lot of them in most cases. However, we've had to keep Damon home from school, even though he's in preschool, and some people may not think that's real school. For him, it's vital because he's autistic, but we
mm,
haven't been able to send him because of the pandemic, and he's still not old enough to get the vaccine, and we take that very seriously.
mm,
Um, Now that cases have dropped, we are thinking about allowing him to go back to class. But even up until this point, we've had the school has been sending teachers to the house to keep him. I wouldn't say keep him from falling behind because
mm.
it's preschool, but just
Right,
keep
right.
him used to working with teachers.
Sure. Yeah, that's cool. It's a whole thing. When I obviously lived in the UK when I raised my kids, and going through school over there is totally different to what I was used to over here in America. And I imagine now even here in America is different to what I was used to, because I went through school fucking 50 years ago. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, um, but yeah, do you know I'm going to turn 60 this year?
Really?
True
Wow,
facts.
you absolutely do not look anywhere near 60.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Um, and on that happy note, I guess I will wrap up the interview. But listen, thanks for hanging out for such a long time. It's been really nice. I've enjoyed
Yeah,
this.
it's been really fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And before we sign off, if we'd like to offer anybody in the comment section to ask a question, I will read it if you're not looking at it. So guys or gals, guys, whoever's in the comment section, you've got like 60 seconds to say some shit now. Ask a question, make a comment, be creative.
Type fast. Show your face more? More than what? I don't know.
Yeah.
Return to YouTube. But easier said than done.
Well, especially when you got little kids in the house, and you know you're working from home, and you know the thing is, you know, when I had my body piercing shop, I had plenty of time to think creatively. And then when my shop failed and I became like I worked in construction, by the time you get home at 5 in the afternoon, you are fucking
You're
beat.
tired. Yeah.
There's it's not just tired, but your brain just won't work. I mean, I'm almost not modest enough to say this, but I mean, I couldn't even make a joke. I couldn't be funny. I couldn't be nothing. I'd be like, ugh, you know, it was bad. But
No, I've definitely had those days.
yeah, sure.
The ironic thing is that my current position, and with the pandemic, I actually have a lot of downtime these days. Um, who are you, Raven? Um, but yeah, but it's kind of soaked up because there are two small, very loud people in this house that that
Yeah,
make recording impossible for me.
right, right,
And that's going on the assumption that I actually have something to talk about, which I
right,
usually don't.
right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk about yourself tonight. So thanks again so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to say goodbye to everybody in the chat section and remind you all that we're back with a jamboree tomorrow night here on same bat time, same bat channel. Or no, that's actually earlier. Tomorrow night it's 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. All right, that's my plug. Peach, I'll see you in the after broadcast in just a second.
Okay.